Welcome back to Clearer Now, the podcast for those who want truth over comfort and clarity over noise. I'm Dominic Miller, and this episode is personal, right? It's not about sex. It's not about being single. It's not even about Bangkok, really. It's about what happens when you finally have freedom and you realize you're not strong enough to handle it. When there are no rules, no one watching, and no structure, who do you become? Because the city will offer you pleasure, but it won't give you peace. The silence will offer you clarity, but only if you're brave enough to face what it shows you, right? This is the story of what freedom exposed in me and what lust disguised, what solitude taught me, and how self control, not chaos, is what truly set me free. So let's get into it. Most people don't ask questions. If you want confidence, competence, purpose, you don't need more theory, you need more reps. The first night I moved into my apartment in Bangkok, I dropped my bag on the floor, shut the door, and just stood there. It was quiet, almost too quiet. There were no footsteps, no parents, no roommates, no background noise, just this strange feeling and electric silence. And for the first time in my life, I was completely alone. And I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I felt untouchable. No one to tell me when to wake up, no one to ask where I was going, and no girlfriend waiting for me on the couch with folded arms and passive aggressive eyes. Just me and a city that didn't care what time I came home as long as I paid the cover fee. I mean, I was 21 years old. I was in shape. I had some money and I had no rules set up for myself. It sounds like a fantasy, right? And that's the danger because freedom doesn't kill you violently, it seduces you silently. Bangkok is a wild place. It doesn't punch you in the face, it winks at you from across the street. It's girls handing you flyers you didn't even ask. It's ping pong show, boss, at every single alley you walk past. It's Tinder matches with bios that say, let's not waste any time. It's knowing you can get high, drunk, get laid all in 1 hour and nobody would ever even know. And if you're not grounded in who you are, you will lose that identity faster than you might think. Because here's the thing that nobody says out loud when there's no one, and I mean no one, left to check on your behavior becomes the truest reflection of who you are. At first, it felt like power. I mean, I had girls texting me one for Monday, one for Thursday, one who'd randomly send a you up at 2 a.m. in the morning. And yeah, I responded. I mean, why wouldn't I, right? My bed was cold, the room was empty, and my phone was warm. But here's the uncomfortable truth that I had to face. I wasn't texting her because I liked her. I was texting her because she made the the silence less loud, and that's the trap, because lust will always feel like love when your soul is starving for connection. Every guy that is listening knows this moment, right? You're standing in front of your mirror and you're brushing your teeth after she leaves. You're not proud, you're not sad, you're just numb. And if you do that enough times, you stop seeing a man in the mirror, you're seeing a puppet that is addicted at his own options. Because when everything is allowed, nothing actually feels earned. And that's when the crash starts, right? I remember one night I went out, I got some drinks, I brought someone back. No emotions, no conversations past the fake compliments we would give each other, no depth, just dopamine. She left the next morning, and I just sat at the edge of my bed and it hit me. This isn't freedom, this is escape disguised as control. You think you're choosing these women, you think you're in charge, but you're not choosing anything. Really, you're avoiding something. It might be responsibility, intimacy, vulnerability, hell, maybe even purpose. But deep down, I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid of sitting with myself long enough to realize that I didn't like the man I was becoming, right? Nobody teaches young men this. They'll tell you explore and enjoy your youth. They might even tell you to live a little, but freedom without values is just chaos in designer clothing. Does that make sense? Because I know this only because I actually lived this. So let's talk about her. Not one girl, but the idea of her. The soft skin, the scent that lingered on your hoodies, the laugh that made you feel like maybe you mattered, the Instagram post you saved even though you never even liked it. You weren't in love with her, you were in love with the reflection of yourself you saw in her eyes. And when she looked at you with desire, you felt like a man, but not because you were one, but because she temporarily made you forget that you weren't. Validation isn't the woman's fault, but it becomes her currency in a world where men have no real mission. So we chase, we flirt, we perform, we play the role we think she wants, we contort. And in doing so, we abandon the man we should have been building. Does that make sense? You can't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing who you refuse to become. The truth is this, right? Most of us don't even crave sex. We crave recognition. We crave being seen. We crave being heard, held, but not physically, existentially. Because somewhere deep in the masculine spirit is a question we're all afraid to ask. Am I enough without the applause? And most of us spend years answering that question with bodies, with likes, with empty beds and fake conversations because it's easier to be wanted than to be worthy. I remember this one girl I was seeing. She was beautiful, she was smart, she was funny. She didn't chase, she magnetized. And I tried to meet her energy, not with presence, but with performance. I became responsive, anxious. I texted paragraphs when she sent emojis. I laughed at jokes I didn't even find funny. And I dressed the way I thought she would want me to dress. And I mistook adrenaline for connection. What I thought was chemistry was just me abandoning myself. Every time you abandon your truth to win love, you teach your soul it is not worth to be seen. Women don't want your mask, they want your foundation, and when it's cracked, they can feel it. She will feel your neediness, your unspoken hunger to be picked, and she will either mother you or run from you because no woman wants to carry the emotional weight of the man she sleeps with. To the woman listening, your power isn't in how many men want you, it's in how many men you don't need to entertain, right? Your beauty isn't what you show, it's what you protect. It's in your boundaries, your mystery, your ability to say no to the man who hasn't earned your yes. Does that make sense? Attention is cheap, standards are sacred. Real men, what I think, aren't drawn to exposure, they're drawn to depth. They don't want access, they want access granted. So, what does this mean? It means that love is sacred, but only when it's rooted in respect. If you have to perform to keep her, you're not in love, you're in a panic. And panic is the enemy of presence. If your confidence rises and falls on based on her replies, you're not building a bond, you're surviving an addiction. right? If she is the reason you feel strong, then she is also the reason you will collapse. But when you build your peace in silence, when you learn to be whole without an audience, that's when your love becomes pure. That's when it becomes a gift and not a leash. And that's when you start to attract people who love you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. Real love isn't found, it's recognized. And you can't recognize it until you've recognized yourself. Now, welcome to the hard part. This is where the clarity begins. What living alone taught me about detachment and how self control became the most seductive thing I've ever built. There's a moment in life you can't fake, a silence you can't scroll past. It doesn't arrive like thunder, it drips slowly, quietly, deeply. It's the moment after the party, after the last drink, after the girl leaves and your sheets still smell like her shampoo. You lay back and you realize you're not full, you're not even close. It hits at 3 p.m. on a random weekday when your phone is fully charged but your soul isn't. When you open Instagram for the 100th time and feel more empty after every scroll, that's when the silence starts talking. And it doesn't yell, it shows who you've been when no one is watching. It shows you what you've traded your time, your energy, your body for. You meet the character in the quiet, and most people are terrified of that introduction. I used to think being detached meant being cold, untouchable, untamed. I thought being unbothered meant being strong. But real detachment, it's not about being cold, it's about being clear. Clear on what you stand for, clear on what you no longer tolerate, and clear on who you refuse to become. Detachment isn't distance, it's discernment. It's the refusal to sell your peace for temporary pleasure. It's knowing how to say no even when everything in you is screaming yes. This is for the men. Discipline isn't your prison, it's your perimeter. It's the walls that keeps the chaos out and your power in. And this is for the woman. Your value is not in how available you are, it's in how fiercely you protect your energy. Stop performing. Stop people pleasing. Stop handing out access to people who haven't even earned the right to hold your heart. Because what you tolerate in silence becomes your standard, and what you choose not to walk away from becomes the version of yourself you settle into. This that makes sense? If it costs your peace, your power, or your purpose, it's too expensive. I had a night where I turned off everything. No music, no vices, no woman even. Just a dim light, a cold floor, and my own reflection. And I asked the realest question that I ever spoke aloud. I asked, would I buy myself a beer? And the answer wasn't yes. It wasn't no, it was quiet. And that silence told me everything. Because that's what silence does, right? It doesn't flatter, it reveals. The world teaches you how to chase, but it rarely teaches you how to choose. You learn how to get attention, but you don't learn how to guard it. You learn how to sleep with people, but not how to sit with yourself. Until you master that, you'll always mistake distraction for love and escape for freedom. There's no point in being free if you're still a slave to your impulses. So let me say this like an older brother. Self respect is built in boring moments, in repetition, in restraint, in small, quiet decisions that nobody claps for. Not texting her back, not watching that video, not betraying yourself for the third time this week. Your future isn't shaped by motivation, it's shaped by what you do when you're bored, tired, and alone. This is where everything changes, right? Not when you get a girlfriend, not when you start a business, not when followers start coming in, but when you wake up and you realize you no longer need to be seen to feel valuable. That's when you become dangerous, because the world can tempt you, but it can't move you. That's when you become a leader, because you no longer beg for attention, you command respect, right? That's when you become clearer. Now, everyone wants freedom, but no one talks about the weight that comes with it. See, when you're a child, your life is rules, bedtime, homework, parents, teachers, structure. But as you grow up, the structure fades, and one day you wake up and no one's checking in if you're doing all right. And you think, I'm free. But freedom without vision is just chaos wearing a tuxedo. It's dressed up. It feels powerful, but it's still empty because real freedom, it doesn't feel like doing whatever you want. It feels like finally doing what's right without anyone forcing you to do so. Discipline is freedom with direction. Freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the presence of purpose. I used to chase freedom like it was the finish line. Move out, make money, hook up, do what I want. But all I found out was noise, temptation, loops. I wasn't free, I was lost. I was lost. Just without a leash. So, what was the turning point? It was realizing that freedom isn't about how many yeses you can say, it's about how many no's you're willing to stand on. Every no is a louder yes to your future self. To the men listening, you're not a leader if you can't even lead yourself. You're not powerful if your urges decide who you become. And to the woman, you're not empowered if your confidence depends on compliments. You're not liberated if you give yourself to those who haven't even earned your trust. So, how about this? Let's stop dressing up weakness as freedom. Let's stop calling chaos independence because true strength isn't loud, it's rooted. True love isn't impulsive, it's intentional. And true freedom, well, that's the quiet power to say, I know who I am and I don't need the world's permission to act like it. So here's what I want to leave you with. Stop looking for the path that feels good and start choosing the one that actually makes you good. Stop chasing highs, start building depth because the real revolution, it's not external, right? It's not on your screen, it's not in someone else's arms, it's you alone, disciplined, focused, becoming who you're born to be, not who the world seduces you to become. That's not just freedom, but that's clarity. This week, right? Ask yourself the hardest question in every relationship you're in, romantic, casual, even the ones in your head. It's, is it helping me become who I'm meant to become? And if the answer is no, then walk, or at least take one step back. Maybe it's a situationship you keep just for the attention. Maybe it's someone you sleep with but never speak the truth with. Maybe it's you pretending, chasing, performing just not to feel alone. Let this week be the week you choose truth over company, because the wrong love will keep you comfortable, but it won't make you clear. If it softens your standard or silences your soul, it's not love, it's seduction. So write it down, make the call, set the boundary. You don't need to burn the bridge, but maybe you should stop crossing it, because clarity isn't found in being chosen, it's found in finally choosing yourself. If this episode spoke to you, please share it, like, subscribe, comment on what you like, maybe what you didn't like. Subscribe, hit the bell, and meet me again next week in the next episode. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep walking the path. You don't need permission to be who you are. You just need the courage to face who you've been. So, welcome back, your power, and I'll see you in the next one. And I hope things are clearer now.